Expedient back action lock repair on the Brunswick rifle. William Hovey Smith, 2013. I'm the author of Extreme Muzzleloading, and here's how to get your Brunswick rifle to actually work.
This is Hovey Smith, the Backyard Sportsman, and today I want to be talking about tuning back action locks. In recent weeks I have been working with a Brunswick rifle, and we have restocked it, and we're getting it ready to actually be a hunting gun. Now on the table before me you see both the gun I restocked here as well as an original. So we're fortunate to have two guns in the house of exactly the same pattern. Now I have had problems with the back action locks on my rifle that I'm putting together. This one in particular. And I'm going to talk about the details of this and bring the camera up so you can actually see how we correct the problem. Now just to show you the difference, this is what a back action lock looks like, and this is what a bar lock looks like. You can see the difference in the profile of the lock plate, plus the back action lock, as you'll see when I get the rifle back, fits much further back on the stock, like here, whereas this fits more nearly under the barrel. So there is a difference in both the style of locks and where they are inlet, although they do have all of the same parts, more or less. Now, to disassemble the lock, you slip the hammer off. I've already, of course, removed the retaining screw. And you can take vice grips, compress the spring, ease the stirrups out, and then remove the spring like this. Now this is a big honking heavy spring. Or if you don't happen to have vice grips, you can do it with an ordinary wrench by bringing the lock to full cock and then using your wrench as a temporary clamp. And there are also such things as mainspring clamps. But I don't happen to have any of those. On the lock, this little spring here causes more problems with these locks than any other cause. The reason is that it has to put pressure on this sear bar, and if the pressure is too great, you can't even pull the trigger. I've had locks like that from these rifles where you just couldn't do it. And if the pressure is too little, then we run into the problem where the hammer will hang up on half cock notch, and you may or may not be able to fire the gun from that position. I've had it happen both ways. In this lock, they've used a different kind of spring. And here, there's a little tit that works on here. And it's a much thicker spring to boot. So this is actually the more reliable solution on the slightly older pattern lock. But again, if you look closely at the parts, you'll see that they're slightly different. They're grossly the same shape, but not necessarily the same size. And don't function in necessarily the same way. These were very much individual guns. Well, there are three solutions to the problem of this spring. This is a very thin and flimsy spring. You can bend it down more and put more tension on this bar by just bending the spring. You can do that. Or you can attempt to replace it and put in a new spring. You can get one of these from the rifle shoppy, although I'm not sure exactly how it's designed. There are two different ways of attaching it on these locks, and just the two examples I have are different. So I can't say what you're going to come up with. Another solution is to grind away the half cock notch on this tumbler. That will remove this problem almost forever. As long as you have an adequate amount of tension on the sear bar to hold it at full cock, you'll be in good shape. And that was done with many rifles. And that is, I think, what I'm going to do with this one. Well, isn't that a safety? Aren't you doing something dangerous? Well, yeah, you are. The half-cock notch is useful for holding the hammer away from the nipple whilst you put on a musket cap. And yes, if you're doing the manual of arms in military fashion, you pretty well have to have it. However, on many guns, both historically and on some guns even in recent times, they were made without safeties. Trap guns, for example, single barrel trap guns, typically have no safeties because they are loaded immediately before fire. The same thing's going to happen with this as a hunting gun. It's only going to have a cap put on the nipple when I get up in my deer stand, and I'm going to lower the hammer all the way down on that cap. Now if it falls, won't the gun go off? Yeah, it very likely will. But if it falls and it's on half cock and the cap is on the nipple, the gun may also be jarred off and detonate. So you just have to be very careful about what you're doing. But for me, with hunting guns, functional reliability is more important than absolute safety, particularly since there's nobody out there in the woods when I hunt but me and the deer. To disassemble a lock, now that we have the springs out, you just remove these 3 screws. And incidentally, you don't want to disassemble a bunch of these locks at the same time and mix the parts because they won't necessarily fit. Okay. Now here is the tumbler, and what we're going to do is take our Dremel tool and actually grind away this half-cock notch and leave a smooth slope here so that the end of the sear will slide smoothly over. Now here is our tumbler, and you can see the 2 notches. And the one we're going to work on is this notch right here, the most forward notch, because this is your half cock notch. Now this is your full cock notch, and we want to make sure not even to touch it, but we want to just remove this and make this a smooth rounded surface. And I'm going to put on some goggles because you don't want to get these small fragments in your eyes. I guarantee you, either the metal or the abrasive material are not very comfortable.
Removing the half-cock notch was not really necessary. As I show later, I installed a wedge of rubber which actually solves this problem.
Okay, that should be about right, I think. I'm going to take some file and stone and true it up a little bit, but yeah, that's about the profile we're looking for. What we have discovered in regards to the sear spring here is that it is just too fatigued to work properly. And so we have cut and put in a wedge of hard rubber from this, and it goes between the spring itself and this sear arm. And this enables us to put enough tension on the hammer here so that it will stand at full cock okay. Now the trigger pull is now a little bit tough, but it will function safely and reliably. And that is the more important thing right now. Ultimately, I will have to replace this spring, but this may require me to actually have one built to fit this gun. So we're going to put the lock back into the gun, and that drops in fairly well. And we're going to attach some screws, of course. side. Now during this process, when you put tension on these screws, and if all of a sudden the hammer falls, that means that something is not inlet quite right yet, and it probably means that it's catching on the sear bar, particularly if it falls as you cinch up tight like I'm doing now. So now we have a trigger pull of something like about 6 pounds. For a military gun, well, okay, that was about all right, but at least it stays safely up on full cock now, and I don't have to worry about it. Yeah, that's not going anywhere.
These rifles, rebuilt from 150-year-old salvage parts, may be unsafe to shoot.
Now I have my earplugs back in and my eye protection on. And we're going to test this on a couple of caps. And of course, the rifle is unloaded. Okay. There we go. Good solid hit in ignition. 1. 2. Felt good, did good.
Now I have a rifle that I can use to do further load development after I adjust the sight so that we'll shoot more nearly to the point of aim. And that's going to be in the next video, by the way. I am the author of prize-winning books including Extreme Muzzleloading, Backyard Deer Hunting, Crossbow Hunting, and Practical Bow Fishing, and all of these are available as softcover and e-books. I have an 8-book e-book series out for 2013-14, including Building or Restoring Your Own Muzzleloader, which will feature this gun. For more information on my books, blogs, and more than 325 videos, go to my website at www.hoveysmith.com. Good hunting and good eating from the outdoors. Goodbye, and God bless.